In front of a fabulous crowd of nearly 16,000 on a miserable afternoon, the Newcastle Knights were well in control of the match against the Bears. Tony Kemp had scored the first try of the match from a smart piece of thinking, and McCormack was carrying on the good form of the past 4 weeks when it happened. Running from dummy half, McCormack was tackled by the Bears' Gary Larson, and as they fell to the ground, McCormack's ankle totally gave way, and immediately he knew he was in a lot of trouble. To complicate matters, the stretcher was nowhere to be found, and when it was located some 5 minutes after the accident, it was fullback Gary Worth who delivered it to McCormack. After finally arriving in hospital, McCormack heard the bad news.
It's broken in 2 places, just below the knee and right on the ankle itself, and dislocated as well.
This is dreadfully bad luck because you're playing super footy.
Yeah, I was happy with my form. It was real good, but it's just one of those things, I suppose.
Any message for your teammates?
Oh, no, it's just well done, boys. And keep going, that's the main thing, yeah. Get a few away wins, will be good, yeah. I'll be back there later on.
Of Australia by their deeds and sacrifice.
Faith in the wider life of the world.
As far as rugby league goes in town at the moment, everything is here we go Knights, here we go. Tony Butterfield, Mark Sargent, Michael Hagan and co are the modern-day heroes for an army of fanatical fans. But to keep the Knights on a roll, it takes more than just a first-grade side to make you successful. And Newcastle are blessed with 2 very talented junior teams that are blitzing the opposition. To make it to the top for these Knights of the future, you must keep working. Today was no exception for the under-17 SG Ball side, who are being put through their paces at Empire Park under the watchful eye of their coach Peter Sharp. So far this season, the Ball team has had 2 wins and 1 loss, with the notable result being the win over Canterbury 2012 after being behind 12-0 at half-time. Last weekend they beat North Sydney 16-4. The Jersey Flegg team, who trained at Dudley Oval today, have a similar record under the astute guidance of John Anderson. Both teams are engaged against Parramatta at the ISC this weekend. Even with the threat of rain and choppy surf, the Dixon Park Surf Club conducted the finals of the Cooter Egan Classic today. Surfers from Taree to Avoca have been competing in 3 separate categories. Marcus Brabant won the Open Division from Craig McMillan, with Damien Iredale in 3rd position. For the senior men's, it was Rod Baldwin who got the money from Mick Adam and Chris Power. In the junior division, where the competition is always fierce, it was Shane Power who won the event from Sam Schill and Chad Edzer.
The traditional dawn parade hung in the balance while veterans decided whether to chance the march between heavy showers. Finally, they decided on a footpath procession under the shelter of shop awnings. The service couldn't be conducted in the park and was hurriedly relocated to the City Hall, much to the disappointment of airwomen who would have become the first all-female catafalque party to guard a cenotaph. The confines of the hall didn't detract from the solemnity of the service. Sunrise brought a promise of some improvement in the weather for the main ceremony of the day, the Anzac Day March along Hunter Street. The parade set off in dazzling sunshine. Original Anzacs were sadly sparse, but the ranks were swelled by an unprecedented turnout of Vietnam veterans. Huge crowds lined the route in a gesture of support for this one day of the year. In Civic Park, the commemoration service was equally well attended despite a brief shower which sent many scurrying for shelter. President of the Newcastle Anzac Day Committee, Bruce Cribbs, stood his ground against the elements to renew a vow being pledged across the nation.
We commemorate every man, woman and child who in those crucial years died so that the lights of freedom and humanity might continue to shine.
Wreaths were laid by representatives of the armed forces, a host of civic leaders and ex-service organisations, concluding a service which RSL leaders describe as one of the best in years. Of course, on this day of national significance, similar Anzac Day ceremonies are being conducted across the Hunter. Here's Jodie McKay.
Former colleague of the Rathmines family, Dr Bill Merrilees, set up a fundraising appeal this morning, and already over $100 has been raised.
So we think it's important to get them some cash as soon as possible because they lost everything in the disaster. So everyone's keen to help as quickly as possible.
Bryce Quarry, a former lecturer at the Institute, his wife Lynn and son Stephen, 15, and 8-month-old Peter were rescued when their 13-metre yacht began to sink around 180 nautical miles east of Brisbane. They were on their way to Fiji, where Mr Quarry was to lecture in commercial law at the South Pacific University. They had lived for 5 years on the boat and yesterday lost all their possessions, and it's feared their 2 cats may have drowned. But amongst the devastation and heartbreak, the family have continuing support from the Hunter.
We've just set up the appeal this morning and we've set it up within the Institute, partly in conjunction with the Westlake Community Centre, who's also helping out for this cause. And we've basically gone to both the students and the staff to get their support, and at this stage they're all being very generous.
Pushing the
23-year-old Newcastle University student Chris Fotef was elected National President in Melbourne. He comes from the left faction of Australian Young Labor and plans to campaign locally and nationally.
Well, the aims of the campaign in 3 major areas: the National Youth Radio Network, youth social justice, and a campaign to promote trade unions to young people.
Chris hopes the youth social justice strategy will enable him to affect federal budgetary policy.
Our main concerns are youth homelessness and child poverty, as well as unemployment benefits and social security benefits generally.
So what are your political aspirations?
I don't have a Keating plan. I don't intend on working numbers to be elected as a Member of Parliament. My involvement is purely to advance the progressive view of the party and the progressive policies and platform of the party, and if that requires taking on a certain position, then I'll do that, as with the case of National President of Young Labor.
The second annual City Country Championships were held this weekend at the Charlestown Indoor Sports Complex. 6 Newcastle players were involved in the 2 country sides and gained plenty of support from the local crowd. City yesterday won both men's and women's divisions, notching up early wins in the best of 3 series. The women's division was certainly no place for the faint-hearted. These women are just as competitive as their male counterparts and produce the more exciting games over the championships. City won both divisions late this afternoon, wrapping up the title. 26-year-old Sally Griffiths from Merriweather, who captained country, gained selection in the state side to contest the national championships to be held in the Northern Territory in June.
The Urban Transit Authority has already been broken into 6 business zones across the state, and it's apparent that the government wants each zone to become commercially viable. There are more than 350 drivers, mechanics, cleaners and administrative staff working on the buses in Newcastle, and all will be under review. But union leaders hold most fears for the future of the employees at the UTA's Hamilton Depot workshop. They fear that maintenance work will be farmed out to private tender, leaving the 70 workshop employees with a dismal future.
There's a very uncertain fear there. They are really concerned about where they're going and what they're going to do.
The government's plan for the bus service will be released on May 31. The bus drivers' union believes whatever proposal is put forward will be executed quickly and ruthlessly. Union leaders have every reason to fear the worst. They say the government is giving them no details of their plans for the 31st of May, leaving them with just 1 month to prepare the union case before those plans are implemented in June. I'm Tom Hilston for NBN News. Police called in the dog squad after being told at least 2 people could be hiding in the ceiling of the truck showroom following a break-in early this morning. Instead of crawling about on all fours themselves, police decided a dog was better suited to the task. Handler and dog searched the ceiling, then neighbouring buildings and rooftops before concluding the culprits had found another way out. Nevertheless, the police dog proved its worth, saving manpower, time and considerable discomfort.
If you were to try and search out with just police, it'd take a while. With the dog, it takes half the time, if not a third of the time.
For their efforts, the culprits collected several $100s in petty cash and a quantity of promotional material.
Controversial smoking ban initiator Alderman Don Geddes has proposed an educational and public awareness program for the protection of the ozone layer during last night's Newcastle Council meeting. Concerned about the future of his and other children, he was to the point about changes he wanted to see.
I certainly want to see off the shelves in shops any product that in fact is harmful to the environment, and I also particularly want to see people aware of what products there are that affect the environment. I mean, I want the Newcastle Council to be a pioneer in that field.
In a 3-point proposal, he suggested that 1. Citizens be educated to choose products which don't affect the environment and to leave on shelves those which have ingredients that do affect it. 2. Establish a public awareness campaign. And 3. Council addresses itself about the use of products which are harmful and substitute products which don't contain chlorofluorocarbons. Questions about what affects our depleting ozone layer are multifaceted, and for that reason, Alderman Geddes said he'd like to see education in schools and an environmental task force in this area.
I think it's important for children to be educated first and be given some assurance as to what they can do to correct it, and I think if you can work on children, the children in turn can work on their parents.
Have you ever heard of ozone?
No.
Are you aware of ozone?
I've heard of it.
Do you know what it is?
It affects something about the earth.
Do you think you know enough about ozone?
Not really.
Do you think there's enough education, public education about ozone?
No, and probably not enough political activity about it.
Do you think there's enough public education about ozone?
No, I don't. No.
Don't think so.
No, not really. Not at all.
And you should ask him, because he's the one that's going to have to live it when there's none left, if anybody can live through it.
The Director of Health and Building Services is expected to have a report available in the next month.
Paul Henderson was one of 90 Australian juniors to compete in the 16-day US tour. The result of 4 college invitation events is a host of victories and placings against some of the world's best juniors. But Paul says the most encouraging result was at San Antonio, where he won his time division of the 100-metre event and placed second in the 200 metres.
I think like running against the best in the world, especially as juniors, will give me a lot of encouragement when Bulgaria comes up next year, and I think the more experience you get, the better you become.
Paul's now in training for the Japan-China-Australia track and field meeting in Japan in August. After that, it's all eyes on the World Juniors at Bulgaria in May next year. Fans collected 4,000 outer tokens today, making sure they didn't miss out on what's already being billed a highlight of the '89 season. Memories of the Knights' previous clashes with the reigning premiers are still fresh in the minds of supporters, and the one that gives them most satisfaction is the Knights' 18-16 victory during the pre-season Challenge Cup. Knights 5'8" Michael Hagan says the team is more than happy with its performance in past encounters, and he's in a better position than most to judge. The former Canterbury player will come in for plenty of attention from the Bulldogs. Their decision to move Paul Langmack up to 5'8" isn't being taken lightly.
Langmack's a very good player, and we've played a lot of football together over the years. We're probably a little bit similar in styles. He likes to play with the ball, but as far as defence is concerned, he's probably playing a similar role at 5'8" as he would at lock, so I don't see that as having a great bearing on things. He's a very good player, and I'm sure we'll have a good tussle on Sunday.
Still an indication that they're taking you quite seriously.
Oh yeah, I think, well, hopefully Phil Gill's got a little bit of respect for me because I played with him last year, but you know, like I said once before, once the game starts, well, they can't afford to worry about me too much.
While the Knights can be flattered by Canterbury's reshuffle, it's the forwards who will face the brunt of the battle.
The 2 forward packs will meet in the middle on Sunday and slug it out for 80 minutes, and we'll see who's on top at the end of the day.
The home crowd could be bigger than ever at this one, but Michael Hagan says the veteran Bulldogs aren't the type to be put off by a big turnout.
It certainly gives our fellas a lift, but I think Paul Langmack made the point in the press this week that it'll probably be motivational for Canterbury for the reason that they'll have 30,000 people against them, and they'll all be for us. But you know, it's certainly on the way to the ground. It gives you a great lift, and the atmosphere is terrific to play in front of.
The ground's looking good for the match, but it won't need any more rain. However, that's not going to put off players or spectators. Remaining tickets to the outer grounds will be on sale tomorrow at the Knights office from 9 a.m.
As the vigil at Alan Mcqueens' bedside entered its 11th night, there appeared a faint glimmer of hope. Doctors had deferred a decision to switch off his life support system, opting instead to administer massive blood transfusions to the young constable.
But as a consequence of ongoing uncontrollable hemorrhage, Constable Alan Mcqueen could no longer be supported by heart, lung and dialysis machine and passed away at 9:57 a.m. this morning.
Then the inevitable show of grief from workmates and family.
They are very, very distressed, but his father has just said to me how tremendously proud he is of a son who is a fighter.
He was a very strong young man, and there was wonderful support there from his family. You could almost see them trying to resuscitate him with their love.
John Avery, who ordered that flags at the police centre be flown at half-mast, was at Mcqueen's side when he died and made no attempt to hide his distress. To say it was bravery beyond the call of duty would be an understatement, and even more so when it's considered Alan Mcqueen wasn't even supposed to be on duty the day of the shootout. It was his day off, but such was his commitment to the job, he'd volunteered to work.
He's young and idealistic and very enthusiastic. Just the sort of policeman you can't afford to lose.
And as his loss was being mourned, the man accused of shooting Mcqueen faced more court appearances in Brisbane today. John Porter was remanded in custody there for another week, despite a plea by New South Wales detectives for his immediate extradition.
It'll be 15 months now before Earth's heavenly twin looms below Magellan's powerful radar scanners, beaming back secrets hidden beneath the planet's swirling cloud mass. Are there lessons for Earth there about the greenhouse effect that heats the Venetian surface to a life-destroying 900 degrees?
I think only once we understand what happened to generate the greenhouse on Venus will we really understand what that means for us here.
Police were called to the Perfection Point manicure salon around 3:30 this afternoon, where a shop assistant was holding the woman after she allegedly tried to walk out of the store with another customer's handbag. Shop assistant Carol Stowe says the woman put up quite a struggle.
She was huddled over the bag and I said, "Are you right?" And she just started coming towards us then. And she knocked me over and I just grabbed her by the leather jacket and just held her. And then this other girl came running and we've just held her and just tried to calm her down a bit.
Did she put up any sort of struggle?
Yeah. But she pushed me into the wall. She just didn't want to be held at all.
The bag contained more than several $1,000s. Police took the woman to Charlestown Police Station for questioning and later charged her with stealing offences. She will appear in Newcastle Court tomorrow.
You guys are 100 off also.
Police again patrolled the city centre in high numbers as Operation Street Sweep continued last night. 21 people were arrested on charges ranging from offensive language, assaulting police and drugs offences. Another 6 people were detained for drunkenness. 16 people were also arrested on Friday night. Sergeant Alex Whiteley says many of the offences occurred in full view of officers.
We found that the plainclothes personnel are able to actually catch offenders, whereas the uniform officers are not being able to get that arrest rate. We've had instances of offenders actually urinating in front of police officers.
Despite 3 weeks of intensive police presence on the streets during the campaign, arrest figures are rising.
We were hoping that our arrest rate might drop off, but it's not doing that, and it's actually continuing, and while it's ever continuing, we will have to continue having our enforcement nights.
Newcastle Street in Newcastle.
The former Eastern Suburbs player Gary Worth has been in sensational form so far this season and has fitted into the team as if he had been there from the start. His incisive running and good distribution has led to many a Knights try. After representing City First last year, he's delighted to have been picked for Country First this time round.
The side's been going pretty well, and I think if we all go out to put in each week, and things have been happening all right, so you just take what comes your way.
With a renewed confidence level, Gary has his eyes set on higher honours.
As I said, you just got to take what comes your way, so I'll be following the big fella through there, and we'll just see what happens.
There's a few forwards in the Winfield Cup who are looking to take a step aside when Big Mark Sargent hits the line these days. Recruited from Canterbury after not being able to hold a permanent posse in the Bulldog pack, Sargent is the former front rower of the competition and his selection came as no surprise. But the win against his former club yesterday was really sweet.
I think I remember yesterday for quite some time, beating the old club and then getting picked in the country origin side to boot.
So Newcastle really has been excellent for you, the move back here?
Mate, I'm not regretting it at all. It was it's turned out to be pretty fortuitous sort of a move, yeah.
And for Big Sarge, a blue jumper is up for grabs.
You take it game for game, and but obviously it's a step toward that. So I'd love to play in the blue. So hopefully somewhere along the line it might come along.